Amani Richards's hand shook slightly as she gripped her phone, her father's voice booming from the speaker. In front of her, the flight attendant who had just tried to remove her from first class stood frozen in a stunned silence. "Do you know who my daughter is?" the voice roared, echoing across the first-class cabin. Passengers quieted, heads turning subtly, ears straining to catch every word. The color drained from the flight attendant's face. She had just demanded that the daughter of Skyward International's largest minority stakeholder give up her seat so a white businessman without a valid first-class ticket could take it instead. The moment might go down as the gravest misstep of Brenda Hastings's aviation career. Amani had been planning this flight for weeks. At 20 years old, she was a rising junior at Yale, a pre-law student with a flawless academic record. She had saved up every travel mile she could, sacrificed holidays and breaks, all for this tripe reward for herself, for making it through the gauntlet of Ivy League life as one of the very few black students in her program. Her first-class seat from Atlanta to New York represented more than just legroom and champagne. It symbolized the future she was building. She walked onto the plane with her chin high, her carry-on designer tote trailing behind her. She could almost feel the eyes that watched her from behind business-class partitions. But none watched her with more intensity than Brenda Hastings. Brenda's demeanor shifted the moment Amani stepped into the first-class cabin. Her cordial smile faded into something colder, appraising. "Ticket," Brenda demanded. Her voice, which had been cheerful and soft when greeting white passengers, was now clipped. Amani handed over her boarding pass, calm despite the sudden chill. Brenda squinted at the pass, flipping it unnecessarily before glancing back at Amani. "And I'll need to see your ID as well," she added. Amani noticed the difference immediately. None of the passengers ahead of her had been asked for identification. But she didn't argue. She handed over her license with steady fingers. Brenda studied the two documents for an awkwardly long time, then returned them without so much as a welcome aboard. She gestured. 3A. Window. No smile. No words. Just suspicion. Amani walked to her seat, ignoring the flush of discomfort that warmed her cheeks. She had earned this seat. She wasn't about to let someone's narrow-minded assumptions take that away from her. But the flight attendant wasn't done with her yet. Just as boarding was wrapping up, a commotion stirred at the front. A tall man in a tailored navy suit and polished Oxfords stood with his arms crossed, raising his voice. "This is ridiculous. I'm a Platinum Prime member. I don't sit in coach." Brenda sprang into action, her tone now warm and accommodating. "What seems to be the issue, Mr. Douglas Whitmore?" the man snapped. "Every flight. First class. This must be a system error." Brenda nodded sympathetically. "Let me see what I can do." She walked straight down the aisle right to Amani. "Miss," Brenda began, voice syrupy and false, "it looks like we've had a little overbooking situation." Amani blinked. "What do you mean?" Brenda folded her hands. "Unfortunately, Mr. Whitmore here is one of our highest priority customers. We're going to need to reassign you to Economy Plus." "I have a confirmed first-class seat," Amani replied. "Paid with airline miles. Checked in yesterday. There's no mistake." Brenda's eyes narrowed. "You don't seem to understand how priority boarding works. In cases of overbooking, there's an empty seat beside me," Amani pointed out. "He doesn't have a first-class ticket." Ido. Passengers nearby had begun to pay attention. Some subtly reached for their phones. Across the aisle, a woman was already filming. "I'm going to have to insist," Brenda said, voice rising. "Refusing to comply with crew instructions may result in removal from the flight." "This is because I'm black, isn't it?" Amani asked, steady but firm. Brenda's face twisted. "That's a disgusting accusation." Whitmore stepped forward smugly. "Just call security already." Amani's eyes burned. She refused to cry. Instead, she lifted her phone. "I think my father might want to hear about this." Brenda laughed scornfully. "Oh, please. Is Daddy going to sue us?" Amani didn't answer. She dialed. Darnell Richards speaking. "Dad," she said, voice cracking. "I need your help." "What's going on?" Darnell's tone immediately turned sharp. Darnell Richards wasn't just any father. He was the founder and CEO of Apex Tech, one of the fastest-growing tech firms in the country and Skyward International's largest independent investor. After hearing Amani's brief recounting, he said only, "Put the flight attendant on." Amani extended the phone. Brenda hesitated, then took it. "This is Brenda Hastings, senior attendant." The passengers couldn't hear what was said on the other end, but they watched as Brenda's expression drained of color. "Yes, sir. I wasn't aware. Yes, I understand." "The pilot?" "Of course." She returned to the cockpit and emerged with the captain, a tall man in his 50s named John Carlyle. "This is Captain Carlyle," he announced, taking the phone. His eyes widened as he listened. "Mr. Richards?" "Aye, sir. I understand. Absolutely. This will be corrected immediately." He handed the phone back and turned to Brenda. "Escort Mr. Whitmore to economy." "What?" Douglas Whitmore exploded. "I am the executive vice president at Whitmore Holdings." "You bought an economy ticket," the captain said, calm but firm. "And you cannot displace another passenger with a valid first-class boarding pass. Please take your seat, or we will deplane you." Security was called to remove Douglas when he refused. He cursed and threatened lawsuits all the way down the aisle. Afterward, the captain approached Amani directly. "Miss Richards, on behalf of Skyward International, I apologize. Everything on this flight will be complimentary. You'll be taken care of." Brenda was quietly reassigned to coach service. A new attendant, a young black woman named Layla, took her place and treated Amani with the respect she had earned. But as Amani stared out the window during takeoff, a cloud of questions hung over her heart. She had been able to defend herself because of who her father was. What about the countless others who couldn't? By the time the plane landed, passengers had uploaded videos of the confrontation online. The hashtag #FlyingWhileBlack was trending. Skyward International's PR team scrambled to issue a statement. "We are aware of the incident and are conducting an internal investigation. Skyward has a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination." But vague language couldn't contain the fury. Amani's phone exploded with messages, some praising her bravery, others full of racist vitriol. Her social media accounts were flooded. Her university inbox filled with both support and threats. "You're what's wrong with America." Entitled brat playing the race card. "Watch your back." Her roommate called in a panic. "They're digging through your Instagram. They're trying to paint you as a radical." The university began applying pressure. A dean summoned her. "Harvard is proud of all its students," he said, "but we must avoid becoming a media circus." "Would you rather I had just moved?" Amani asked. "We prefer students focus on academics." Even trusted professors began treating her differently, questioning her in class, scrutinizing her work. One even snapped, "Maybe if you spent less time giving interviews, you'd understand the reading." Amani tried to stay focused, but the threats escalated. Her dorm was vandalized. A note slid under her door read, "Know your place." Then her 16-year-old sister was targeted at school. "They're posting memes," she sobbed. "They're calling you a liar." Amani considered settling. "Maybe we take their offer, Dad," she said one night. "Use the money to start a foundation." Darnell looked into her eyes. "Is that what you want? Or what they want?" Before she could answer, an anonymous tipster emailed Maya Dalton, their civil rights attorney. It included a leaked internal document, Skyward's algorithm. It flagged passengers by neighborhood, name, and profile image bias hidden under code. The whistleblower had attached more training manuals, downgrade stats by race, and coded language instructing gate agents to maintain the first-class environment. Maya filed it with the court. Skyward tried to block it. Judge Harmon initially sided with them until journalists revealed he'd received speaking fees from Skyward's parent company. He was forced to recuse himself. With each new piece of evidence, the case grew stronger. Former employees testified. Passengers formed a class action suit. Darnell exposed financial misconduct tied to discriminatory practices. The tide turned. The new judge allowed full discovery. Brenda Hastings flipped, describing in detail the coded training meant to weed out non-white passengers. Skyward CEO was forced to testify. Confronted with emails bearing his approval of the algorithm, he broke down. Reynolds' financial collapsed under SEC scrutiny. Kenneth Reynolds was indicted. Skyward's board, under shareholder pressure, agreed to a sweeping settlement. $137 million paid out. A total overhaul of all customer policies. Third-party oversight. Transparent training reforms. Amani used part of her share to found Equal Air, a legal fund to fight travel discrimination. Years later, as she boarded a flight to speak at a civil rights symposium, she settled into first class. An elderly black woman hesitated beside her. "Is this seat B?" the woman asked nervously. "Yes," Amani smiled. "You belong here." She meant it, because the fight she started in one humiliating flight had changed the course of an entire industry. And maybe, just maybe, something even bigger.